In less than a month from today, the government will be announcing the union budget. One of the big announcements that is expected as per various newspaper reports is that government is considering providing larger tax breaks for the middle class, specifically targeting those people who are earning less than or up to 15 lakh rupees per annum. If this is done, it is expected to provide boost to the consumption, which will contribute to the overall GDP growth rate for the current financial year as well as the next upcoming financial years. Hello and welcome to Unacademy IAS, a one-stop destination for all the English medium civil services aspirants. Welcome to a session where we will dissect the various newspaper articles which have quoted two government officials anonymously providing information that government is considering to provide huge amount of tax breaks to the middle class. Before discussing and dissecting the information, I have a very important announcement to make. If you are appearing and aim to clear the civil services examination in the year 2026, we have an excellent offer for all of you. If you purchase a subscription course of, let's say, 18 months, you will get it at a very high discount. We are giving 60% discount and the course price is 24,999. You will get access to online English, Hindi and bilingual classes, prelims as well as mains test series, reference material and also the mentorship services. But one more added advantage of subscribing to this particular course is that if you write the exams in 2026, meet certain conditions, and if you do not clear this, under the CSE Assure, we will extend your subscription by 12 more months. And this, you do not have to pay even a single rupee for the extension. But make sure that when you purchase the course, you will use the code IAS English. And by the way, January 4th is the last date for this. Now, let me give you certain very important points which will make or which will basically showcase the fact that there is a need for the government to cut the income taxes or reduce the income tax burden on the middle class income households. Now, if you look at the graphical representation here, I've given you two graphs. First graph provides information regarding the GDP growth rate, which has been registered by Indian economy in the last couple of quarters. Although the information is available from the first quarter of financial year 22, focus on the last two quarters, that is essentially the first and second quarter of 24 and 25. You will see that for the first quarter, we registered a GDP growth rate of 6.7%. And for the second quarter, we registered a growth rate of 5.4%, which fundamentally shows that there is, from one quarter to another quarter, there is a lower GDP growth rate that is being registered. And if the trend continues, we might see that India's GDP might not be as per the estimates. As per the recent estimates provided by Reserve Bank of India, looking at this kind of a trend, it has reduced or lowered its GDP growth rate estimate for the current financial year from 7.2% to 6.6%. Second important point, note the inflation trend. You will see that the inflation trend, especially for September and October, the inflation rate has been in the range of 5.5% to 6%. Slightly above 6% for the month of October, and again it has come down in the range of 6% for the month of November. But what is the importance of this piece of information for you? When the inflation rate is around 6% and specifically the food inflation is around 10%, it simply means there is a larger burden on the households in India. No doubt, the rich households will also pay more money for purchasing the same basket of goods and services, and the poor and middle class households will also have to pay more money. But whenever you talk about the impact of inflation, the impact will be much larger on the middle class as well as the lower income households whenever the food inflation is higher. Reason being, rich households in any case will have sufficient amount of income to take care of 10% inflation rate or 12% inflation rate. But the brunt or basically the impact of this or the larger impact of this will be felt by the middle class as well as lower income class households. Point number 2. Point number 3, whenever you talk about gross domestic product, there are different ways to measure GDP. One such way is essentially through consumption or expenditure method. Expenditure method. When you talk about GDP, measurement through expenditure method, the formula is C plus I plus G within the bracket X minus M. Focus on the first component here, that is C. C represents how much is the overall consumption expenditure done by households. And this is important because out of the total GDP number, whatever is the GDP calculated using this formula, out of that, around 60% of it comes from the first component, that is the consumption expenditure. Point number 4. If you put together all of these particular factors, you will realize that the middle class as well as the lower income households, no doubt in terms of salaries, they are earning higher compared to what they were earning earlier. But when you adjust all of this for inflation, you will realize that their purchasing power or real purchasing power is much lower. Point number 2, on many of these particular commodities that they consume by purchasing from the market, the GST rates have been rationalized now, which means they are paying a lot of money on the expenditure in the form of taxes. Point number 4, or in addition to all of this, there is a rising concern for the government of India that if the trend continues, India's GDP will be much lesser, and that is a very big cause of concern. Because if the GDP becomes lower or if the GDP doesn't meet the expected, let's say, target, it directly will have an impact on investments in the market. It will have an impact on consumption in the market. It will basically dent the investor confidence on the growth story of Indian economy. So looking at all of this, the government is thinking of providing tax breaks for the people who are earning income of 15 lakh rupees. Although I'm saying, please understand, these are anonymous sources, but various newspaper reports have stated that these are the government officials. To what extent the tax break will be provided, it is yet to be seen. You will come to know this on the 1st of February when the union budget will be presented by the finance minister. But much more importantly, this particular tax break is expected to be provided only under the new income tax regime. New IT regime. What is this new IT regime? Back in the year 2020, Government of India introduced a new income tax regime. Today, if you want to file income taxes, there are two different types of income tax calculation methodologies. In the new income tax regime, compared to the old one, very less exemptions are provided. Lot of exemptions which were provided under the old tax regime, they have been withdrawn. The number of slabs have been rationalized. And if you basically look at the slabs from, let's say, above 5 lakh or until this particular 15 lakh rupees, now basically the tax rate applicable is in the range of around 5% to 20%. And after this, the highest rate of income tax slab, that is 30%, is applicable. So the expectation is that government will reduce the income tax rate on the middle class households which are earning up to 15 lakh rupees per annum. If this is done, which is expected to be done, the middle class households will have higher disposable income now. They will have higher amount of income in their hands for expenditure purposes. With a higher disposable income, the expenditure or the demand for the goods and services is expected to increase. With higher expenditure, now the investment in the market will increase because there is a higher demand. It will contribute to higher employment generation. All of this essentially will basically lead to higher GDP. And this, with higher GDP, we will be able to move towards our target of $5 trillion economy and also achieve a higher GDP growth rate. Now, some of you might be thinking, sir, why are we targeting only the middle class? Why not provide it to rich class as well? Argument here is, as of now, please understand, the middle class household incomes and rich class or rich households, the consumption patterns are different. That is, the rich class, a lot of the money that they spend, no doubt they will spend money on food, but a lot of money they spend on luxury products. And in recent times, already there is a concern that there is a premiumization. There is a premiumization of a demand in India. Essentially, what does it mean? The demand for certain goods and services which can be considered as a luxury products, luxury commodities, the demand for this has been higher, which means there is not a problem from the rich class households in terms of consumption expenditure. But when you talk about FMCG products, fast moving consumer products, for example, Maggi product or Maggi, right, let's say noodles or Parle-G, these are very important FMCG products. The demand for these kind of FMCG products in recent times, there is a concern regarding the demand there, which generally represents that the middle class households are not having sufficient amount of money or they are not spending sufficient amount of money in purchasing these kind of products. So the overall idea here is provide tax benefits, lower the tax burden on these households. They will be able to save more amount of money now. And if they save more amount of money, they will spend more amount of money, which will contribute to the overall economic activity. So we will have to wait and see on the 1st of February to what extent the government of India will provide relief to the middle class, which is needed, which is required for a higher demand or for the recovery of demand, which will contribute to, let's say, the growth of Indian economy in the coming months. What do you think of this discussion? Should the government of India provide the tax benefits for the middle class or to the entire population of India? If yes, to what extent do you expect or do you want the government of India to provide the benefit? In what way? Complete exemption or, let's say, certain amount of relief? Please do let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. If you like this initiative, do not forget to hit the like button. And if you're yet to subscribe to our YouTube channel, kindly do it right now. Thank you. Have a great day.